You know, I used to think that when I turned 60, life would finally become peaceful, that I'd have enough savings, a warm home, and a soft armchair to sit on while watching the sunset. But one afternoon, as I sat on that very chair, I realized something strange. I didn't feel peaceful. I felt empty. I had worked hard my whole life. I'd gone through hard times, achieved success, earned respect. But deep inside, I realized I had stopped too early. I had stepped into the comfort zone I once thought was the reward, but in truth, it was the sweetest trap of all. Have you ever felt that way? Waking up one morning and realizing you no longer feel excited about your work, not because you hate it, but because it's too familiar. Everything is fine, yet nothing makes your heart race anymore. That's the comfort zone. It doesn't kill you in a day. It kills you softly, slowly, with pleasant routines and reasonable excuses. Years ago, I had a friend named Michael. He was an engineer, worked for a big company, had a stable income. People said he was lucky. But I still remember one day over coffee, he said, "Jack, sometimes I feel like a goldfish in a small bowl. I've got food, water, and light, but no ocean." That sentence haunted me for years because I realized so many of us live that way. We call it stability, but in truth, it's a mild form of surrender. I've spoken to hundreds of people in my life coaching sessions, most of them over 50. And do you know what I hear the most? Not, "I wish I'd made more money," but, "I wish I had the courage to try the thing I feared most." It sounds sad, but it's true. Regret doesn't come from failure, it comes from never daring to fail. I once read a study from Cornell University about people in their final years. When asked what they regretted most, over 80% said, "What I regret most are the things I didn't do, not the mistakes I made." And that's the hidden cost of comfort. It doesn't charge you money, it charges you your time, your potential, your pride. You see, human beings are strange. When we're young, we dream of flying high. But as we grow older, we build ourselves a cage and call it stability. I used to be like that. At 35, I had what many would call a dream job. Good income, high position, everything under control. But every morning as I drove to work, I felt like I was running in circles, every day the same. I wasn't unhappy, I was just safe. Then one day, I asked myself, if I keep living like this for 10 more years, will I be proud of who I am? The answer was no, so I quit. I started over, speaking, teaching, sharing with people as my true self. And strangely enough, I'd never felt more alive. You see, comfort is alone, and its interest is regret. The longer you stay in your comfort zone, the higher the price you pay for the chances you missed. A college friend once told me, "Bob, I just want a peaceful life, no competition." 20 years later, he called me again, his voice heavy with regret. He said, "I'm not peaceful anymore. I'm just dull." That's what the comfort zone does. It doesn't make you suffer. It makes you stop feeling alive. When we were kids, we dreamed of becoming doctors, musicians, astronauts. But as adults, we shrink our dreams to fit our salary and our fears. We start saying things like, "Well, I'm too old for that now. At least I still have a job. This is good enough." And day by day, we shrink our lives just to keep a temporary sense of ease. I remember a woman I once coached. Her name was Linda, 58 years old. She had a small dream to open a bakery in her hometown. But for 20 years, she kept saying, "Maybe later when I'm ready." Then one day, after retiring and struggling with her health, she said, "Now I understand. You're never really ready. I've been waiting my whole life." I'll never forget the look in her eyes when she said that not sadness, but awakening. Many people think safety is the best thing. But the truth is, playing it safe is the riskiest thing in today's world. Technology changes, the world spins, even our own bodies don't stand still. Yet so many choose to stay still just because it hurts less. The truth is, pain isn't the enemy. We hurt when our body grows. We hurt when our muscles get stronger. We hurt when our soul outgrows its old limits. Pain is proof that you're still alive. I know hearing this isn't easy, especially when you're in your 40s or 50s and society keeps telling you it's time to slow down. But believe me, I've worked with hundreds of people at that age, and the most beautiful thing is this. When they try something new, even something small, they become young again, not in skin or hair, but in their eyes. The eyes of someone who has found a new reason to live, to learn to love. So this video isn't here to make you afraid of risks. It's here to remind you that the biggest risk is living too safely. I'll share with you 13 lessons I've learned over 60 years of life work and stories. Lessons not from books, but from the moments I chose not to stay still. Some cost me money, some cost me my job, some cost me my peace. But each time I stepped out, I discovered something profound. Life truly begins when you dare to step outside your comfort zone. So today, no matter your age, no matter if you feel fine or too late, I want you to remember this. It's never too late to start living truly. Lesson 1. Comfort is not happiness. I used to believe that once I had enough money, a home, and peace of mind, happiness would come. But happiness doesn't live in the comfort zone. It lives where you feel yourself growing even just one small step at a time. A friend of mine, John, once said I retired early to finally rest. But after 6 months, I felt like I was fading away. His body was strong, but his spirit was quietly eroding. Because true happiness doesn't come from stopping. It comes from doing something meaningful. Lesson 2. You'll never know what you can do unless you try. I used to fear speaking in public. Now I make a living doing it. The first time I spoke to an audience of 50 people, I was shaking so hard I forgot my own name. But if I had walked away that day, I would have never discovered that I could touch people's hearts with words. So many people say I can't do that, but the truth is they just haven't tried long enough. You'll never know your limit until you cross it. Lesson 3. Failure isn't as scary as not daring to fail. People fear failure because they fear being judged. But think about it. A year from now, 2 years from now, will anyone even remember your stumble? The answer is no one will. Failure doesn't shrink you, it expands you. The successful people I've met weren't necessarily smarter. They just lost more times than others dared to lose. Lesson 4. The comfort zone shrinks over time. The longer you stay in it, the smaller it gets. Someone might quit their job to rest for a while, and a year later, they're too afraid to start again. Just like the body, the mind also needs exercise. If you don't use it, it weakens. And the scariest thing isn't not knowing what you want. It's no longer believing that you can change. Lesson 5. Growth always comes with discomfort. Once I decided to learn guitar at 55. My fingers hurt, my rhythm was off, and my son laughed and said, "Dad, come on, it's too late." But I kept practicing. A year later, I played my first song not perfectly, but beautifully. Because I realized every kind of growth begins with a bit of discomfort. If you're feeling uneasy, it probably means you're on the right path. Lesson 6. Change doesn't kill you. Stagnation does. Science tells us the human brain can create new neural connections at any age. That means you are never too old to learn something new. But every time you say, maybe tomorrow, you send your brain a message, I don't need to grow anymore. And little by little, your mind grows lazy, your spirit grows old. Change isn't scary, you've just forgotten how to change. Lesson 7. Fear never disappears, but you can grow stronger than it. I've never stopped feeling afraid when trying something new. When I wrote my first book, I feared no one would read it. When I made my first video, I feared people would laugh. But I realized fear will always be there, you just learn to keep walking, even while you're afraid. A soldier doesn't stop fearing the battlefield, he simply stops letting fear decide his direction. Lesson 8. Every easy choice has a cost. When you choose the couch instead of exercise, the price of that comfort is your health. When you stay silent instead of speaking up, the price is regret. When you stay in a job you hate, the price is the life you never lived. We all pay, few of us calculate the bill early enough. Lesson 9. No one can save you from your comfort zone except you. Your family can advise you, your friends can cheer you on, but no one can take that step for you. Even the best coach can't make you stronger unless you lift the first weight yourself. The comfort zone is a door that only opens from the inside. If you don't turn the key, no one can pull you out. Lesson 10. Freedom isn't about having fewer responsibilities, it's about having more choices. Do you know what true freedom feels like? It's not resting. It's being able to choose what you want to do. And that freedom only comes to those who dare, who risk, who try, who fail. A person who's overcome hardship has more options than one who always played it safe, because they've learned that no matter what happens, they can always start again. Lesson 11. Age isn't a barrier, it's an advantage. I love telling this to older audiences. You're not at a disadvantage because you're 50 or 60. You only lose when you believe you're done. Age gives you something youth doesn't: wisdom, depth, and calm. And when you combine that with the willingness to learn again, you become unstoppable. Lesson 12. Every day is a chance to be reborn. I once asked a 62-year-old woman who started painting at 60, "What made you start?" She smiled and said, "Because I realized today is not the last day of my life." That answer left me silent. You can start over anytime as long as you can breathe, as long as you can dream. People don't grow old because of time, they grow old when they stop being curious. Lesson 13. The comfort zone isn't your enemy, it's just a resting place. I'm not saying you should live in chaos forever. Comfort has its place to rest, to heal, to reflect. But don't build your home there. Treat it like a stop on your journey, not the final destination. Because if you stay too long, comfort turns into chains. You see, these 13 lessons aren't lofty philosophies. They're the distilled truth of real life from people who lived too safely and finally realized that safe isn't the same as alive. If you're listening right now, maybe somewhere deep inside you, there's a quiet longing for something new. A project, a dream, a new chapter. I want you to know you're not alone. And I'm here just to remind you of one simple thing. Comfort is the gift of yesterday. Growth is the gift of tomorrow. And tomorrow begins the moment you dare to step outside your comfort zone today. If you find yourself standing at a crossroads, take the step, because the most beautiful things in life are often found on the other side of comfort. I once read a quote that said, "People don't fear change, they fear losing what feels familiar." And perhaps that's exactly why we stay within our old limits, not because we're weak, but because we've grown attached to the comfort of our own fear. Have you ever felt that way? Knowing you should do something different, start something new, take that first step, but instead you tell yourself, maybe tomorrow. And then tomorrow quietly turns into a year later. I've lived 60 years on this earth, and if there's one thing I truly regret, it isn't the times I failed, it's the times I stood still. The chances I missed, not because I couldn't, but because I didn't dare. Life never asks, "Are you ready yet?" It only asks, "Do you want to?" And you know what? There's never a perfect moment to begin. There's no morning when you'll wake up and think, today I'm finally ready for change. Beginnings always come wrapped in uncertainty, in hesitation, in the quiet fear of doing it wrong. But that's how you know you're headed in the right direction. I still remember the first time I filmed a video for my YouTube channel. The lighting was bad, the sound was terrible, and I sounded like someone reading notes off a page. But I posted it anyway. Months later, I got an email that said, "I watch your videos every morning. They remind me that I can still start over at 52. Just one short message, and it was enough for me to realize. Sometimes you don't need to do something perfect. You just need to do something real. Because what's real touches hearts. You see, changing your life doesn't always come from grand decisions. It begins with the smallest things. Choosing to walk 10 more minutes each morning. Taking 15 minutes each night to write down what you're grateful for. Saying no to what drains you and yes to what makes you feel alive. That's what real change looks like, not in a single day, but in every breath, in every small choice. And if you do that consistently, one day you'll look back and realize you've become someone new. Not the person others expected, but the person you were meant to be. There's one question I want you to hold on to today. If today were the first day of the rest of your life, what would you do differently? Let that question live in you. Let it knock on your heart every morning. You don't need the answer right away. Just don't silence it. I've worked with many people in their 50s and 60s. They didn't come to me because they failed. They came because they stopped feeling alive. They had everything: jobs, homes, children, retirement. And yet they said, "I don't know who I am anymore." So I asked them one simple question. If you weren't afraid of anything, what would you do right now? And do you know what the most common answer was? It wasn't about money. It wasn't about fame. They said, "I just want to feel alive again." That answer means everything to me. Because being alive isn't just breathing, it's feeling your heartbeat for something that matters. So remember this, no one is ever too late to change. No one is ever too old to begin. No one is ever too small to make a difference. And no life, no matter how ordinary, is beyond extraordinary if you dare to take one small step. I've seen people at 65 learn to paint, at 70 learn to dance, at 75 learn to use social media just to spread positivity. They weren't trying to be young again. They just didn't want to die while still alive. You can start small. You don't need big declarations. You don't need promises to anyone else. Just one quiet promise to yourself that you won't live today exactly the same as yesterday. That you'll give yourself permission to be curious, to make mistakes, to truly live. Because in the end, when you look back, what makes you smile won't be what you kept. It'll be the moments you dared to move forward. So if today you feel stuck in your job, your relationship, or your own thoughts, Maybe this is the reminder you need. Don't wait until you're ready. Start now and let starting make you ready. Because life change doesn't happen while you wait. It happens when you choose to live. Thank you for spending your time here with me. If this message touched even a small part of your heart, leave a comment, share your story, because maybe your story will be the light someone else needs. And if you want to keep walking this journey together, hit follow so we can meet again somewhere along the road as we each learn to change our lives one day at a time.